Welcome back to Base is Beautiful. My name is MD. Today there are three cards that I want to talk about. Number three, I want to talk about a collecting project that I'm doing, obviously related to these three cards. And then I want to talk about a video project, a produced out video project that I'm doing that's going to be connected to this collecting emphasis. So to start out, I've been, I guess, really wanting to get into one of the old vintage Bowman sets. And of course, the 1953 color Bowman is beautiful and well collected, and there's a lot of emphasis on it. But I ended up connecting with the 1954 Bowman set. And my pathway into it, I guess, is a little bit different than your average way because there's one card that jumped out to me right away. And it's connected to the Angels, although obviously in 1954 the Angels didn't exist yet. But it's this card. The 1954 Rocky Bridges. He's wearing a Cincinnati Reds, or were they the Red Legs at this point? Yeah, they were the Red Legs. So he's wearing his Red Legs outfit, and you get this interesting, just the art on this set. You know, Rocky Bridges is kind of a funny guy to collect because he's always got this big cheek full of chewing tobacco on the right side of his face. Every card, I think, has that in it. And he ended up playing with the Angels in their first year in Anaheim, 1961. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if he played any more than that one season, but it was at the end of his career. And he went on and he did some managing at the minor league level and things like that. And so of course, I love minor league cards. I was looking at minor league cards and stuff, and then I decided to look into just see how far back his cards went as a player, and started to get into stuff from the 50s, and stumbled upon this that I just thought was fantastic. I mean, the soft light, the painterly background that it really makes this card just look, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It really captured my attention and immediately became my favorite Rocky Bridges card. And so it made me start to think, like, what other cards from this set, and how could I approach some, if I'm going to get this card, that doesn't necessarily connect really to anything in my collection, are there other things that might connect to it? And so I'm always asking these kinds of questions of myself as a collector, and of course, in the process of doing so, giving myself all sorts of projects that I'll probably never complete, hobby projects. But, and I also decided, so I made several decisions around this set. First, I wanted 1954 Bowman. 2, I didn't want to do the whole set. But 3, I wanted to pick cards based on my connection with the look and feel of the card themselves, whether they reflected Hall of Fame players or just, this is, a quote unquote common card, but it's a beautiful card of a player who actually had a decent career in the major leagues and is important to me because he ties into Angels history. But also I don't know, like, how old is this guy at this point? 27, so he's in his 20s, right? Yeah. He's in his late 20s and he looks like this. I don't know, like, people don't look like this anymore. So I wanted that, and so I just started to think through, how would I approach collecting this set? And so targeting those cards that looked particularly interesting to me, but also and so my whole list includes some Hall of Fame players, and some non Hall of Fame players, mostly non Hall of Fame players. And anyway, I started to think through, like, how would I approach collecting it? And so I started to pick up a couple. And so I've also got this Hoot Evers card. I mean, I don't know of a better old baseball name than Hoot Evers. I just the paint, the painting look on these cards is just really cool to me. He's pictured there with the Red Sox. And I also decided that I didn't want to get graded cards. Like, I actually wanted to, not necessarily just super beat up cards, but I mean, decent condition. Some may be more worn than others, but I wanted cards that I could feel in my hands, that I could actually touch, that I wasn't going to, focus in on having something encapsulated, in plastic and graded. I wanted something that I could feel and kind of set myself back in the time period a little bit more. And 1954 is the year that my mom was born. My dad was born in 55. And I've wanted to do something related to one of my parents' birth years for a while. And the 1954 Bowman set feels like the right way to do that. I do have, I don't, I don't know if other people care about music and kind of setting a mood, but I love music and I love Spotify. I love making playlists. And so I actually have a playlist of lots of songs from 1954 that you can click on the link in the description and go to a Spotify playlist that I made that's all 1954 specific songs. And I made that for my mom's birthday one year, and I've done that for a few other years because it's just a fun way to jump in and experience a year and, kind of set the atmosphere of a certain time period. And so the third card that I want to show is Vic Raschi here. Shout out to Josh at Peeps. I've got an awesome tape parallel going on here. That was, I think that's my first one, my first tape parallel. But I like this card. He's pictured here with the Yankees. Of course, he was a very successful pitcher, won 6 World Series championships with the Yankees. That's pretty awesome to be part of that. But that sets up my next, the thing that I want to talk about, the last piece of this, which is a video project. Because part of what I wanted to do in collecting players from the set, so like this will be a very slow build it out. I'm not trying to blast through this and just buy up a whole bunch of stuff on ComC or anything and then ship it. I'm going just a little bit at a time, very slowly, finding a card that I like at the price that I want to pay for it, but also just not stacking these up, but really savoring the cards as they come in, and also writing my own little histories about each of these players. Because for me, obviously, this is way before I was born, and the players, the time period, it's all very unfamiliar territory to me. I made that Reggie Jackson video about him going to the Angels, even though 82 is the year before I was born. The early 80s still makes sense to me as a time period. I understand the references, the aesthetic, the culture, things that are happening, the big touchstone points of pop culture. I don't have all of that connection with stuff from 1954. And so part of what I'm doing with this video project is that these videos will be carefully produced. I'll spend weeks working on them to create, like a 10 or so minute long video that is specific to that year and the player's experience within that year, like trying to get back specifically to that time. And so my first video is going to be about Vic Raschi, because he's pictured here on the Yankees, but he actually begins that season, he plays that season with St. Louis Cardinals. And so he's getting up there in age. He's 35, I think he is, to start the season. And so the story that I'm going to tell is supposed to hopefully kind of set you in that time period, in that era, feeling with him, the ups and downs, and just kind of focusing in a little bit of a story around a couple of points from that season. And so, these will be slow to make because it takes, I'm doing my own original research. It's going beyond the Wikipedia bio and digging into old newspaper articles and finding any sort of information, interviews or things I can find online or anything like that. So anyway, it's taking some time, but it's what I wanted to do to enjoy this facet of the collection and connect me more deeply to an era in which I don't fully understand. And I don't have that personal experience, connection, nostalgia to it. I don't know who the players are. I don't know their backstories. I don't know the ways that they connect. But, and sometimes just reading a Wikipedia entry, I need something a little bit more, because, you can read several of those in a row and they just start running together. And so putting that in the scope of a narrative story, talking about a guy coming into a new city with these expectations and what he's trying to accomplish, now I'm starting to feel like I can remember who Vic Raschi is, because I've started to write that story. And I want to do, obviously, stories for these guys and for others. I kind of jumped into recording here without printing out my list, but I'll show that at some point. But anyway, that's what I'm working on. That's the 1954 Bowman series. That's my focus for the videos. And I know I'm always a little long-winded. Apologize for that. I can't help but just yammer on a little too long. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to enjoy these cards with me. If you have personal connections to the 1954 Bowman set, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And anyway, I'd love to help add to our understanding. Those of you who care about my videos, or you're in the similar kind of, collect what you like niche of the hobby that I'm in, hopefully we can all appreciate and come away with a fuller and more rich understanding of the time period in which a lot of these vintage cards, are being distributed, and what it's kind of like as kids at that time with the different players that people were paying attention to and whatnot. So I guess that's the big goal for the video series. Otherwise, it's just me really trying to understand this particular player and try and explain that in a way that is interesting and evocative and entertaining, and hopefully I can accomplish that. But if you spend any time with me today, I appreciate it, and love to hear, as people are always so generous in the comments to offer their thoughts and give their encouragement. So thank you for doing that, and we'll see you next time.